YouTube. Your boy Killa Camm back with another reaction video. Today we got something interesting. I ain't gonna lie. Scrap Life Lee. This is definitely one of my favorite YouTube channels. I watch them all the time. And it's more so about the content and not the quality of the content. I'm not saying that the quality of the content isn't good, but I'm pretty sure they don't go into crazy editing and all that shit. It's just information. And it's interesting. They be doing stuff that I never see people do. But yeah, let's get right into it. Today they are building the world's first Hellephant swap Supra.
JZ makes a ton of power, sounds pretty freaking awesome too. Yeah, mine doesn't do any of that anymore, but it's all right. We got a plan. First, we're gonna take this 7-liter Hellephant engine with the massive supercharger sitting on top of it and put it into the Supra.
They actually started that engine outside of the car last video. That was crazy.
That's actually the whole plan, more or less. As for how we're gonna fit an engine that's twice the size of the 2JZ into a car that's half the size of a Hellcat, well, we're just gonna have to shove it.
Wait, they got the motor already built though. Okay, never mind. They probably finna use that to like test the size.
See what happens. Now to get our engine fitted up, our motor mounts and headers and all that fun stuff built, we're certainly not gonna use our fancy new engine. We're gonna use this core long block that we have laying around the shop. There goes the first bolt. So the factory Hellcat oil pans are front sump, meaning they have this up here. I don't think that's gonna work for us. So we switched to a rear sump Holley oil pan, which I think at least has a decent shot of fitting into here. That we, again, may have to do just a little bit of cutting.
Let's count how many times they cut some shit. Hold on. I got voice isolation on, but I don't really like that. Let's count how many times they gotta cut some shit.
As we're doing this, it feels wrong.
My guess is many times they gotta cut some shit. I'm going with 5. My guess is 5.
Wrong in the best way, I should clarify.
Where is the 2JC, bro?
I mean, do we really need to go all the way down to see what the first issue here is gonna be?
Look.
Chop, 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 chop.
Yeah.
Keep it coming.
1 minute
Keep
in.
it coming. Right there.
Cut already.
I think this is more or less, at least, where this engine is going to sit depth-wise, front to back. We do, however, have to bring it down quite a bit more. And I think our first issue is going to be the fact that our oil pan is going to smash into the rear part of that front subframe.
What is that part? If that's the subframe, well, they could just cut it.
Two ways we can remedy this whole little bit of interference. Number one would be to try to find an oil pan that fits right in this hole. I think that's unlikely. Option number 2, though. Yeah, this honestly does feel a bit wrong, but to be fair, we're also putting a Hemi in it. That's wrong too, so we're just gonna kind of roll with it. On a serious note, I know it might seem harsh, but what we'll ultimately do once we get our engine sat in place is build a bar that goes either around the back of the oil pan, maybe around the front of it, to connect this part of the subframe again. So we're not really losing anything except the factory-looking subframe. So it's really no harm, no foul. Not much about this car that's gonna look factory anyway. The one other thing we're pretty obviously gonna have to change is our oil filter housing. The oil filter was smashing into, or at least it would smash into, our steering rack once we sat our engine in place. So just like we did on my truck build, we're going to have to swap out to one of the TRX ones that comes forward instead of down.
Did that already.
TRX
safety glasses.
Comes forward instead of down.
Where's the safety glasses?
That was easy. All right, bring it in a little more. More. Hold. So right now, the thinnest part of the oil pan sitting over that front section of the subframe, you know, the one we didn't cut, we've got, I don't know, about 5-ish inches to bring it down.
How are we looking side to side?
Good, I think.
Yeah? What's your rocker measurement?
We should put a handbrake on this car.
Probably.
Chill out.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. Real precise. So right now, the oil pan's sitting on the steering rack, so we'd have to bring it up at least, like, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch.
They brought the heads. That's the head from the elephant.
But more or less, this is where it's going to sit height-wise. One thing, though, is it's sitting currently a good
They should have put the Hellephant motor in the track
front of where the 2JZ sat in the same chassis. At the moment, what's stopping us from moving it back any further is the corner of this passenger side cylinder head. It's hitting the firewall. There's a decent sized bump out in the firewall where I guess HVAC used to be. It's no longer there. In fact, there's nothing back there at the moment, so I guess if we wanted to, we probably could. But this V8, it's not nearly as long as the inline 6 2JZ we took out of it, and the engine mount bosses, they're basically in the perfect position as it sits. Plus, the further back we get this thing, the harder it becomes to fit that massive 3.8 liter Whipple we're sitting on top of it. So I think the weight distribution's still perfectly fine here. I'm thinking we mount it right about here.
They did get a camera though. They usually don't have a camera, but I can tell by
mount it
the
right
quality
about here.
of this versus the quality of this. They definitely got a camera. They used to jug the iPhone. Yeah, this is a camera. A mirrorless camera. I can see it. So they probably use that for B-roll.
9 1/4.
Chill out.
That'll do. Let's build some engine mounts. You know, it's almost scary how at home this engine looks in this chassis. It's supposed to be an inline 6. There's not supposed to be room for a V8. It honestly fits really well. Now that we are under it though, we have a good bit more clearance than we actually need on our steering rack, and even more on our front subframe. We're gonna switch out to a smaller alignment tool made out of the finest pine Alaska has to offer. Pine's not quite piney enough, so we'll stick in a piece of door that somebody kicked into. Maybe that'll do the trick. That's about what we want right there. That's perfect. Just a finger's width. That will drop her down on the back a corresponding amount, get our levels back in order, and we can replace that wood with a little bit of metal.
So what we're gonna do for motor mounts is build a couple pedestals here. I'd like for it to hit 2 spots on the subframe and basically build a pipe between these two so that we can intersect that pipe with the actual bracket on the block.
Now, Tim had to get creative and custom make the lower half of our motor mounting pedestal. On the upper side, the engine block side, things get significantly easier. We were able to order a simple Gen 3 Hemi builder's kit. Now we can just bolt this piece to the engine, build a pipe to connect it to, we'll be good to go. And on every car I built to date, that'd be a wrap as far as the engine mounting goes. But on this one, we want to push everything just a little bit further. On this one, I want to go faster than I've ever been. I want the car to be serviceable at the track, and I want to eliminate failure points before we find them. For once. What can start to happen when you're really pushing these blocks, and they're only secured by these 4 bolts, which are traditional engine mounts, is that the rotational force. It's so great, it wants to twist the engine, and it'll actually start pulling on the side of the block. This will ever so slightly start turning the cylinder walls themselves into more of an oval shape, and we all learned at a young age that round pistons, they fit great into a round hole, not so much into an oval one. And because of that, we're gonna build ourselves an engine midplate just like the one they had on this car when it was running a 2J. While it's definitely not as beefy as the engine mounts we just built, it's gonna do one thing really well, and that's protect against those very rotational forces that could damage our block. As for how we're gonna build said midplate, I think we've got a pretty clever idea. We're gonna take this plate that goes in between the factory engine and transmission and copy it.
Bro,
it's not the easiest thing to maneuver around.
Dude spray painted it. I'm weak as hell. That's low key smart though.
It's not the easiest thing to maneuver around in here. One down, right onto the other. The plate fits really well actually. Now, because this engine sits a bit further forward, we are gonna have to modify the mounts that they welded onto the frame for the old mid plate. We're gonna have to move them forward, well, however much that is.
That was already modified though.
I'm gonna hop in the engine bay, and now you see why we didn't want to put the good engine in here yet. And Tim and Fernando are gonna get under it. I'll release these hooks, we'll see if the engine falls out of it, more or less, is what we're doing here. All right.
Are you thinking that you're gonna hold the engine, basically?
If it starts to fall, yes, I will hold it.
He's gonna ride the engine down. Yeah.
All that we're gonna hear. Ah!
Hey, Fernando,
Engine fall
check
out
this
that car.
out.
That car is falling off that lift.
Dude, it looked like it hasn't moved an inch up here.
It hasn't. I mean, nothing.
I would say that quite clearly this qualifies as a big old W on the engine mounting front. Now, Fernando, come put me down, please. If you can't tell by what we're doing at this very moment, next up on the whole mounting design train is the transmission mount. This is our fancy new Turbo 400 built by 501 Performance. It's got 3 speeds, a billet input shaft, a Pro Mod aluminum drum, a reverse manual valve body. It should handle everything we can possibly throw at it. Now, when I bought this car, it had a sick power glide in it. It would have handled everything we could have thrown at it quarter mile wise, but one of the main things I want to do with this car, once we get it wrapped up, is drag and drive. As much as I would have liked to save some money and keep that power glide, we really needed something with 3 gears in it. That way it sucks, you know, just a little bit less when we're cruising 200 miles down the highway in a race car. That's wild. I am truly shaking the entire car on the lift. I don't know if you guys can see it, but every rear-wheel drive car that I've messed with in the past, as soon as you pull the transmission mount off, the transmission's sagging down, the engine's leaning back. Just another benefit of that whole mid-plate thing, I guess. Now, as solid as this is, and trust me, I want to feel it again, it is solid. We are going to need a transmission mount to drive it. Well, that's the transmission mount that they were using on the Power Glide. It fits the chassis side, obviously, because why wouldn't it? But on the transmission side, yeah, we're gonna need a couple more inches. Yeah, in the words of Fernando, she ain't going nowhere. Now, you remember a little bit earlier when we still got to do something about that. So the master plan here, we're going to box in the 2 remaining ends of our subframe and build our own center section that's removable.
Dang, look at that.
The pipe has been piped, which if done right should be every bit as strong as that piece I hacked out.
This will bolt in right there.
So transmission's mounted, engine's mounted. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think it's about that time.
Okay.
It's fine. But the engine's basically in place. The only thing we need to do now is lean it back till it hits the mid plate. And the question is the blower gonna smash into the cow?
If it does, you're gonna cut it.
Oh, that's plenty of room. That's a lot of room. Our valve cover, that's still clear just like we left it. Look at that. Look at that. All the room in the world.
Oh, wow. That motherfucker look good, too. I ain't even gonna lie.
What have we done? This, honestly, might be one of the most ridiculous looking things that I've ever seen.
And I like it.
I love it. I don't even know what I was thinking, if we're being honest, but I had some kind of delusion that this might, in some way, shape, or form, fit under the stock hood. Or at the very least, we could do what we did to Fernando's and cut out a little piece of it. There's not a shot that any of this is fitting under the hood. Frankly, I do not care, because it'd be a shame to cover this up anyway. Now, just food for thought, if we ever decided to, you know, axe this blower and put a regular intake manifold on it, maybe a couple turbos, then we could fit this thing under the stock hood. Regardless though, outside of how high this blower sits, it is seriously uncanny how well everything else fits. There's no clearance issues at the back. We never even tried to put an alternator on this when we were test fitting everything. That clears the frame rail just fine. Our oil filter solution, that works. Literally everything else fits perfectly. Even the coil packs, we're not going to have any issues getting those out like we did on Fernando Z. It truly is like they designed the Supra to have this engine in it from the factory. Just for funsies here, Austin suggested that this thing will look pretty cool with a cow hood. So, you know, this is the 6-inch cow hood off the Turbo Vet. It clears, sort of. You know, it doesn't fit, obviously, because it's for a vet. But the idea of a cow in general, I know it looks weird on a Supra, but I kind of, sort of think I could get down with that. Let me know what you guys think. Now that we've hopefully, at least, put this engine in for the last time, we're not going to install just a hollow shell of a transmission. We're going to do the flex plate, the converter, all the fun stuff that goes inside it makes the transmission spin. Go ahead and get these flywheel bolts torqued down. Sorry, flex plate bolts. There we go. The 70 they call for, an extra 5 for good measure.
Look at that. Oh.
This is gonna be terrible.
What are you taking? Oh.
Very carefully, without making any bit of a mess, we're gonna... Tim overfilled it, for sure.
What is that, clutch fluid?
There we go. We gotta get somebody to clean that up. Well,
is that an Allen key?
Well, just got a nice reminder of something we had to fight through on the truck build too, being that we used a similar converter in the exact same flex plate. These little ears on the torque converter, they bash into the welds on the flex plate, and we totally forgot we have to clearance the torque converter just a little bit, which would have been far easier to do outside of the car, but hey, here we are. But to be fair, every time we do this, it ends with metal coming out of the bell housing. Hopefully this time it's not the starter too. With our drivetrain installed and ready to go, it came time to tackle one of the most difficult parts of this whole...
Hey,
here we are. But to be fair, every time we do this, it ends with metal coming out of the bell.
What else did they cut?
Bell housing. Hopefully this time it's not the starter too. With our drivetrain installed and ready to go, it came time to tackle one of the most difficult parts of this whole job in building a set of one-off custom headers. And in case you're wondering where you'd even start on a project like that, well, with a bit of blacksmithing, as it turns out.
So our exhaust ports on these cylinder heads are D-shaped, and our pipe is round.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. So I need to use some heat, heat this up, a little bit of hammer action, get a D-shape.
Now, when it comes to building the headers on this car, there's realistically 3 main obstacles we have to overcome to make this whole deal work. Number 1 is simply the fact that we're working with huge pipe.
Huh?
We're running a 3.8 liter supercharger on a 7 liter engine. Simply put, we're displacing a lot of air, and because of that, we need a girthy header setup. We're running 2 1/8 inch primaries that merge into a one single 4-inch exit on the back of each header. Now, for reference, on most of the headers we build, we run 1 7/8 inch pipe to a 3-inch pipe coming out of the back. For lack of better terms, we're trying to fit 4 big pipes into 1 small hole. That's not even accounting for the fact that we then need to work with 2 4-inch pipes under the floorboard where there is not a lot of room. Now, obstacle number 2, and this is by far the biggest one, is gonna be our steering shaft.
So we have the first runner snaking around and underneath, and the second runner had to come forward first and through the engine mount, right next to the engine block, in order to actually get to the back.
This is one of the most interesting slash awesome looking slash probably most difficult headers to build I've ever seen. But the way Tim's got it set up in here, we've got plenty of room for that shaft to shaft. We're not touching the motor mount pedestal. Honestly think that wizardry is probably the best way to describe this whole driver header.
Tim the Pipe Wizard shirt's coming soon.
Now our final obstacle, which should be a little easier than the whole steering shaft deal, is our starter.
So our restriction on this side being the starter, and the pipe being so big, you can't get a really tight radius on the bends.
What was that last part?
Big pipe. I've taken to use pie cuts to maneuver around the starter and actually get the exit where we need it to be.
That's unreal. Yeah,
Hey.
it wasn't until now when Tim has all 4 of these runners mocked up that you can really even grasp how tight of an area this was to work in.
Although I didn't have a steering shaft to worry about, the starter kick out on the bell housing made for the pipes exiting
This dude right here, Tim, is the GOAT.
to the back far more difficult to maneuver.
Either way, suppose we're a couple quick welds, or, well, not so quick welds, easy for me to say, away from having completed a set of headers.
Yes.
You know, we just spent the last, week at this point, planning how these are gonna fit in the car, you know, meticulously fitting them up, making sure every bin's right, and now I kind of don't want to put them in the car.
They're beautiful.
They're too nice to go in a car. These belong in a freaking museum. Look at these things.
It's turned out to be quite the arduous task. We had to cut the flange in half so that we could actually maneuver these in and out of the car. At the end of the day, let's just say I'm pretty exhausted.
Just for size comparison, this is a set of Stainless Works headers we have for the Trackhawk. These Stainless Works headers are the go-to anytime I need a set of production, kind of off-the-shelf headers. They're awesome. needless to say, there wasn't really an off-the-shelf solution for this time. Comparing the pipe size is one thing, but seeing these completed headers next to a set of the ones we normally use is just wild. On the other hand, though, we haven't actually fit these up to the car now that they're welded together in one piece, and to be clear, neither of us think this is going to be exactly pleasant.
This one, I'm very confident will fit very easily. The others...
That's the forward part of the passenger side, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there's not really obstructing it there. That's, you know, take a freebie at first, you know. Get some momentum built up. Huh, look at that. 1 down, 3 to go.
Maybe these have to go in first. Maybe they have to work together. Yep. It's the work together thing. There's 2 ways to plan. We either remove the steering column, or we...
Ain't dumb if it works. We got this. It's right there. I think if you give like a honest, good push, it just comes. Maybe not. Maybe not. No, that looks like an honest push. Don't worry. It's just a pry bar.
So close.
It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh
so this can rotate down, right?
Like
hold on.
It's good now.
We're on to something here. We're on to something.
It's good now.
Almost. We got it. It's there. All right.
Wow.
We're never taking this out again. Period.
You can't even.
If we have a failure in the engine, it's just staying. All right. No, I think this wouldn't be that bad if we simply lift the headers off, leave the headers in place, and then pull the engine out. That's how we're gonna have to service this car. As funny as that sounds. Last one.
Our biggest issue here, again, the steering shaft.
That's tight up in there.
Some bad engineering here. It's almost like these need to be out. Put those in.
Yeah, that's not an option. All you have to do is, you know, remove every control arm mount, lower the subframe, pull jack under your engine. But outside of all that, it wasn't too bad.
It worked though.
I guess. Either way, after going back and adding provisions for the O2 sensors, which we most certainly didn't forget until this very moment, we can officially check one of the most complex parts of this build off the list. What an absolute masterpiece. 10 out of 10.
Bro.
11 out of...
Bruh, I done seen a lot of shit on this channel. I ain't never seen them do nothing as difficult as that. I ain't even gonna lie to you.
10.
Well, except bringing the demon back to life, but I'm just mean like one task. That was crazy.
Clearly, the headers are the most complex part of this whole exhaust build.
Yeah.
Being honest, I thought it was going to be really simple from here on out, but then we got to, originally I was going to keep it real simple. We were going to stick a turn down right off the header, real race car-like. We even had the perfect piece of pipe ready to go. Recycling. It's green. But this car, we're going to push this thing like I've honestly never pushed a car in my life, and that means at some point we probably will hurt a motor. And if we have this exhaust dumped out somewhere here under the chassis before the rear tires, you could have coolant, oil, whatever come out under the car and cause us the wreck, which I obviously don't want to do. So to be safe, we're going to run the exhaust all the way back past the axle. But to do that, we're going to need to figure out the entire rear of this car, starting with the fuel system. Probably because it's going to take up by far the most room in the back, but just as much because we have a bunch of cool parts that I really want to try out. For our fuel pump, we're using the Holley VR2. It's the same one we used on the twin turbo vet. Before we installed it last time, we did a little bit of a science experiment. This thing flows enough fuel to power one of those Saudi pipelines, and that is barely an exaggeration. For fuel filters, we got these baller Holley units, along with the biggest fuel filter I have ever seen. But all this, we'll get to that later, because now we got something else to figure out. This is where the gas tank's supposed to go. And we don't have one. When we bought the Supra, it had this tiny little 3-gallon fuel cell in it because race car and whatnot. That wasn't gonna cut it for our uses, though we were able to repurpose that fuel cell for an engine run stand, so at least we put it to good use. But if you guys watched the video from when I went and bought the Supra, it came with a...
I'm gonna put the link. I'm gonna put the link to this video in the description. I hope I don't
race car and whatnot. That wasn't gonna cut it for our uses, though we...
They lit, I mean, they started the car outside of the engine, bro.
We're able to
I know what I mean, man. They started the engine outside of
purpose that fuel cell for an engine run stand, so at least we put it to good use. But if you guys watched the video from when I went and bought the Supra, it came with a ton of parts, one of which was the very same fuel tank I ran in it like a decade ago, with a little bit of modification. And by modification, I mean a giant hole drilled in the bottom. Way back when I was racing the Supra for the first time, I wanted to add an external fuel pump, so I drilled a hole in the tank, added a fitting just like this, and used that to feed the fuel pump. Even though we still do it to this day with C6 Corvettes, drilling gas tanks, it's always felt just sketchy to me. Though this one didn't leak, it never really starved the car of fuel. I mean, it did technically work. So my original thought was just to use this thing again. But on a build of this caliber, something about using a 25-year-old modified factory gas tank, it just doesn't seem like the best decision. Plus, even though the stock tank does have a little sump in the bottom of it that should theoretically protect us from fuel slosh and starvation, we now have a very expensive engine to protect, so a stock gas tank is not gonna cut it. I got looking around for fuel cells, you know, true racing fuel cells, and that is when I found this guy. It's a fuel cell, and it's built specifically for the Supra. It's made to bolt in the same spot as the factory fuel tank, and it's even got this little bracket on the back to let us secure the rear bumper, which is currently just folded over and zip tied to the rear firewall. Plus, on the bottom of it, it's got a true sump, which I think we can all agree is objectively better than a hole drilled in the bottom of a plastic tank. I am 100% positive that this is the first and probably only time I've ever said this, but before we can move any further, before we can install this tank, we've got to move our weights out of the way. So Reed, the previous owner, was racing this thing in a lot of competitive classes at some of the bigger drag racing events throughout the country. And sometimes you need to add weight to the cars. You need to make a minimum weight. Figure why not do it in the most advantageous part of the car, in the back, help out with traction a little bit. So he has added this fine assembly, which, look at that, actually is part of an Olympic bar, I guess, cut up and welded to the roll cage. Being that there wasn't a fuel tank back here, they just straight up blocked off fuel tank access, so riveted in kind of plate. One rivet of which I seem to have forgot. One other thing we're going to quite obviously have to get rid of is our transcooler. This actually wasn't in use. They put that there in preparation to go auto.
Oh, wow.
This is actually a pretty nice transcooler setup. It's got a fan on it. It's got 2 rows of cores. I like it. Now we can see how this thing looks up in here. That looks like where it goes. One thing that I'm sure some of you guys can relate to, if you've, went from working on American cars to Japanese cars or Euro or whatever, the great bolt switch up. When we were getting ready to mount this thing, so it was mounted with M10s, head on over to the Mopar box, grab a couple perfectly matched M10 by 1.5. Now, not on a Japanese car. Not only that, going from the 13, 15, 18 tool set to the 10, 12, 14, 17.
Yeah, another Japanese chassis with American engine.
Yeah,
that's
everything's all over the place. Hoping, oh yeah. What I was gonna say is I was hoping that we had access to the fuel return in the vent there, so we can work on everything from the top, which we definitely do. And I think that means we don't have to take the tank back out. We're actually making permanent progress now. Actually, probably should have done this before we put it in the car. They've got all the accessories for the tank stuffed down in it.
Oh my God.
Now it is significantly harder to get to. So I guess the O-ring for the fuel pump hanger, which we actually don't have. We didn't get one of those with the car, but I do have a plan for it.
What is
Get one of those with the car, but I do have a plan for it.
Loaded up and about to be on the way. Can't wait for the. He bought a whole nother. He bought a whole nother Supra. It looked like
what is
a shirt.
What?
Oh, it's some of the new merch available right now at the scrap.shop. How did that get in there?
You trying to go faster in your car? Lighter merch, right?
Legally speaking, no, but probably. We've been working on this in the background for quite some time now, and the new site is finally live. It's got a bunch of new designs, all Fernando's stuff there as well, and we were able to bring all the printing in-house. And by in-house, I literally mean my basement. Every shirt's printed in my actual house.
Why not do it at the cap? I guess it's too much going on.
Oh, the fuel cap. Yeah, it's got to be. Well, that's sick. Well, this is awkward.
Why? We ate that.
When they sell this kit, I guess they assume the car is going to have a 2JZ. Wow. That's We gotta change this. We gotta do
we need a new one? She going nowhere?
Yeah, we're shaking the whole car practically. I think that's perfectly fine. But obviously, we gotta do something about this cat. We'll call us a, scrap life democracy, if you will. Go down in the comments, hit me with your best line that'll fit right there. I guess the one with the most likes, we'll pick it and have this thing laser engraved, and it'll be the official Fuel Cat slogan, because apparently that's a thing now, of the Supra. Got any suggestions?
Mopra.
Mopra?
Nah.
But with Supra off.
The new guy don't like that suggestion at all.
Great.
Anyway, with our new fuel tank,
but he cut the bed.
The new guy don't like that suggestion at all.
That's funny as shit.
Girthy.
Anyway, with our new fuel tank in place, it was time for the most tedious part of the fuel system that, believe it or not, doesn't even require tools. We've got to blueprint out the entire system and do a lot of parts ordering. Ultimately though, this is what we came up with. Now we just have to take it off the board, put it on the car.
What is that?
The fuel system layout.
Hey, Nissan Juice.
Are you sure about that?
I just put marker to board. This is what came out. First thing on the list, we gotta mount our pre-fuel pump fuel filter. This is gonna make sure that if we find any contaminants in our gas tank from the pump or something like that, it doesn't have a chance to get into our expensive fuel pump and screw anything up. And for this, at least, it's gonna be real simple. We're gonna run a male-to-male 90-degree fitting right off the tank and hang the fuel filter right there. Next up on the agenda, according to the master plan, is our fuel pump. And for this, there's really only one option that fit, and that's right here in between the rear differential and the gas tank. I'd originally kind of considered going on the side of the tank, but it's just a little too close to the tire for comfort. We were also thinking about making use of all this area over here, but I ultimately think because of everything we have going on over here, that this is where our exhaust is gonna have to live. It almost feels wrong to be grinding on such an expensive subframe. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I was looking for validation there. Yes. We got this nice little bracket that's just basically repurposed parts from that Charger race car from way back when. Should be straight. You're just glad to be welding on something in this car. It's not headers, right?
Absolutely.
Tim straight cut the bed.
Now, all we have to do is connect our fuel filter to our fuel pump. We have quite the elaborate line setup going on here. There's single and twin configurations of this Holly pump. On the Vet, we went single. This time, however, we went twin. Wish I could tell you there was some giant master plan there. Really not, just decided to change it up, so we had to add a Y into the system this time. Then for our feed line from the fuel pump up into the engine bay, we're gonna run one single -10 line, which we've painstakingly put a bunch of heat shrouding on just to keep it cool, being that this is the side we're gonna run our exhaust on as well. And I think what we'll do is just run it right up this little ridge in the floorboard, all the way up to the front to our next fuel filter. As for where we're gonna mount this fuel filter, I'm not quite sure. It's pretty huge, and I think the only realistic place we're gonna have a shot at doing it is somewhere in this driver fender area. We have this like little fender brace up here, which it fits perfectly. It actually is like it's made for it. We can always slide it back and forth. We should be able to place this thing right about in the center here, secure it, and then continue on with our lines. From our fuel filter up to the back of each fuel rail, we've got this contraption. One -10 line to a Y fitting that flares out to two more -10 lines that are very, very short. It basically just unifies everything back behind the engine where it's tucked out of the way. And with that, once we tighten it, we officially have fuel from the tank to the engine. Now we just have to get it back. Now, on the return side of things, we're going to have to come out the front of the fuel rails to the fuel pressure regulator, then ultimately back to the fuel tank. Currently, we got these radium low profile -8 fittings on the front. We actually still have the -8 hoses we ran on the engine test cart connected. Don't think they're going to work here, but hey, maybe we can modify them. Either way, our fuel pressure regulator, really the only place we had to mount this because it's so big, was kind of down here, taking advantage of this hole that was cut way back when for an exhaust that I was running out the fender. Which is basically, more or less, the same place you put it in the 350Z, right?
I was about to say that. That's a pretty solid location, I guess, right?
It is. Great minds think alike, right? You know?
Well, it's a JDM chassis.
More straight getting together, though. That's crazy.
That's what we're going with. Right. What do you think, right there? Right about there?
I think that's solid.
Enough for me. Measure once, cut once. Actually, I didn't even measure. Just
watch your damn hand, man.
Cut once. This side, though, is going to 180 back behind the regulator and connect right there. Our final line, thankfully, is this. It's on the bottom of the fuel pressure regulator, and that is our one and only -8 return that's going to run all the way back to the gas tank. With this one, pretty much just like the other side, we're going to run down this little rail that we will have to secure it later, and then not hit our head on the tire like Fernando has done multiple times.
I hate it.
It's so annoying. I was this close. I tapped it, felt it, lightning fast reflexes, no problem.
Would you say you're tired of doing that?
Oh my, damn, come on.
Wheelie tired, So anyway, all right, get it together. Then we're gonna probably attach it to that stud right there, and then I guess it's time to go up and over the subframe, and then up on top of the fuel tank, where we can tackle the rest from in the trunk. And that is officially a wrap on our fuel system. But the one exception being this fuel pump hanger / level sender, which again, we don't have. Now, I did say earlier, had a plan to get one of those along with hopefully some of the other parts we need for this car. Yeah.
He bought a whole nother car, yeah. Come on now. That's how he does this all the time. Bro, that mug is terrible.
Never said it was a good one.
Oh, man.
Pull on the side of the blocks and turn the...
Damn. Them boys just went crazy. Hold on.
Blocks. It's not a blocks. On a car this...
I ain't know anything. Uploaded a separate video for the... I seen this, but it wasn't all one video. But yeah. Oh. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the vlog channel, man. It's Killa Camm. I'm out.